We have seen in earlier videos on immunity that we are continuously exposed to infectious agents or pathogens which can cause infectious diseases. These diseases can vary in severity from mild to very serious. Sometimes they can even be fatal. But we don't get these infections very frequently. In fact, the infections are very uncommon. And the reason is that we have got a very strong and a very effective immune system that guards us against the infectious agents. And these defenses against the infectious agents can be divided into innate immunity and acquired immunity. Innate immunity is non-specific. It acts non-specifically against all the pathogens. A given cell or a given molecule can act against any pathogen. Acquired immunity is very specific. A given cell or a given molecule acts only against one pathogen or one antigen. Acquired immunity is comprised of two components, humoral immunity and cell-mediated immunity. Humoral immunity is provided by antibodies and it acts against extracellular pathogens, the pathogens which have not entered any of our cells. Cell-mediated immunity is provided by T lymphocytes and it acts against intracellular pathogens, the pathogens which have succeeded in entering some of our own cells. So these humoral immunity and cell-mediated immunity are generally able to guard us against all the pathogens. But in some persons, immunity is impaired. The adaptive or acquired immunity is impaired. And this impairment of the immune system or adaptive immunity is known as immunodeficiency. This immunodeficiency can be primary or it can be secondary. Primary immunodeficiency is inherited. Secondary immunodeficiency is acquired after birth. Inherited immunodeficiency can affect humoral immunity, or it can affect cell-mediated immunity, or it can affect humoral immunity as well as cell-mediated immunity. Some representative examples of inherited immunodeficiency diseases are A gamma globulin. This is a disease in which only humoral immunity is affected. DIGERT syndrome, in which only cell-mediated immunity is affected. And severe combined immunodeficiency disease, or SCID, in which both humoral and cell-mediated immunity are affected. Congenital agammaglobulinemia is a disease in which the concentration of gamma globulins in plasma is either very low or sometimes it can even be zero. And gamma globulins include the immunoglobulins. So when immunoglobulins are absent or decreased, humoral immunity will be impaired. Now this is an X-linked disease in which the gamma globulins are either absent or they are extremely low in concentration. In the electrophoretograms below, on the left hand side we have the electrophoretic pattern in a normal person. As we can see, the gamma globulin concentration is almost normal. On the right hand side we have the electrophoretogram of a patient having a gamma globulinemia, and as we can see, the gamma globulin level in this case is very low. DiGeorge syndrome is an inherited condition in which a part of chromosome 22 is deleted. And this leads to failure of development of thymus. The thymus fails to develop. And since T lymphocytes are processed in thymus, if thymus is undeveloped, T cells will not be processed, and therefore cell-mediated immunity will be impaired. DiGeorge syndrome affects many parts of our body in addition to thymus. And in this picture, we can see the various deformities that can occur in DiGeorge syndrome. Severe combined immunodeficiency disease or SCID can occur from a variety of inherited defects, but the most common cause of SCID is an inherited deficiency of the enzyme adenosine deaminase. And this disease affects both humoral and cell-mediated immunity. On the left, we see a normal person having a normal immune system, normal T cells, normal B cells, and he is able to fight infections. On the right side, we have a person having SCID. His immune system is impaired. The T cells and B cells are decreased in number, and their functioning is also impaired, and therefore he cannot fight infections. Inherited immunodeficiency is not very common. In fact, it is uncommon. Much more common is acquired immunodeficiency. Immunodeficiency that is acquired after birth. This acquired immunodeficiency can be because of malnutrition, severe malnutrition, especially protein undernutrition, because immunoglobulins are proteins. So if there is severe protein deficiency, the synthesis of immunoglobulins may be decreased. Acquired immunodeficiency can occur on exposure to radiation. There are some kinds of radiation that can suppress the functioning of bone marrow. So formation of B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes may be decreased. It can be due to prolonged use of immunosuppressive drugs. Now, these drugs suppress the immune system, and in some situations like autoimmune disorders or after organ transplant, we purposely suppress immunity by giving immunosuppressive drugs, and this can result in immunodeficiency. And some viral infections can cause immunodeficiency. A severe, in fact, sinister form of immunodeficiency is caused by a virus known as human immunodeficiency virus or HIV. And the immunodeficiency disease which is caused by HIV is known as acquired immunodeficiency syndrome or AIDS. This HIV is a retrovirus. Retroviruses have an RNA genome and they possess an enzyme known as reverse transcriptase. Now, this reverse transcriptase catalyzes reverse of the normal transcription process. In normal transcription, DNA is used as a template and a complementary RNA is synthesized. Reverse transcriptase uses RNA as a template and it synthesizes complementary DNA. So when a person has been infected by a retrovirus, the genomic RNA of the virus enters the infected cell in the affected person, and the enzyme reverse transcriptase also enters the infected cell. Now, reverse transcriptase uses the viral genome, RNA genome, as a template, and it synthesizes a DNA copy of this genome. And then the DNA copy of the viral genome is incorporated in the DNA of the infected cell. And now the viral genome, the DNA copy of the viral genome, becomes a permanent part of the DNA of the infected cell or the host cell. The structure of HIV is similar to that of other retroviruses. The core of the virus is made up of two copies of the RNA genome, and some enzymes are also present in the core of the virus. The genomic RNA and the enzymes are surrounded by a capsid which is conical in shape. This capsid is made up of some proteins known as core proteins, and these proteins are P24, P7, and P6. And then this capsid is surrounded by a spherical envelope. This envelope is made up of a lipid bilayer and some proteins. The envelope is formed when the virus buds out of an infected cell. When it comes out of an infected cell, the virus takes a part of the host cell membrane with it. The cell membrane is a lipid bilayer. So part of this lipid bilayer of the infected cell is picked up by the virus, and this lipid bilayer now surrounds the virus. Two envelope proteins are associated with the lipid bilayer. These two proteins are in fact glycoproteins. They are known as GP120 and GP41. GP41 is embedded in the lipid bilayer. GP120 is present on the surface of the lipid bilayer, and it is attached to GP41 by non-covalent bonds. This is the virus. Two copies of genomic RNA are present at the core of the virus. This is one copy. This is the second copy. A reverse transcriptase molecule is associated with one copy. A second reverse transcriptase molecule is associated with the other copy. And then two other enzymes, integrase and protease, are also present in the core of the virus. And these enzymes plus the genomic RNA are surrounded by a layer of P24, which is a core protein. So several molecules of P24 surround the core of the virus made up of enzymes plus the genomic RNA. Several molecules of P6 and P7 are present outside P17. And then this core is surrounded by a layer of P17 molecules. The P17 is a protein, several molecules of which surround the capsid or the core of the virus. And then this layer of P17 is surrounded by the lipid bilayer. This is the lipid bilayer. And two envelope proteins, glycoproteins, GP41 and GP120, are associated with the lipid bilayer. This GP41 is embedded in the bilayer, and GP120 is present on the surface of the lipid bilayer. It is attached to GP41 through non-covalent bonds. So GP120 is the molecule which is present on the surface of the virus, on the surface of the lipid bilayer. The cells which are infected by HIV are mainly helper T cells. Some macrophages may also be affected, but the major cells which are infected by HIV are helper T cells. And the glycoprotein GP120, which is present on the surface of the virus, plays a key role in infection by HIV, as we will see later. The genome of the HIV is made up of 9,749 nucleotides, and three genes in the HIV genome are common to all the retroviruses. These three genes are ENV, GAG, and POL. These three genes are present in all the retroviruses, including HIV. But HIV possesses 6 accessory genes which are not present in other retroviruses. These genes are unique to HIV. And these accessory genes which are present only in HIV are TAT, REV, NEF, BPU, VIF, and BPR. So in all, we have got 9 genes, 3 common genes and 6 unique genes. And these 9 genes can form 15 different proteins. When these genes are transcribed and translated, 15 different proteins can be synthesized. This is how the genes are located in the viral genome. GAG gene encodes 4 proteins which are P6, P17, P24, and P7. The POL gene encodes the 3 enzymes, protease, reverse transcriptase, and integrase. The ENV gene encodes the 2 envelope proteins GP120 and GP41. And then we have these accessory genes, each of which encodes 1 protein. The name of ENV gene is derived from envelope. It encodes a polyprotein, a precursor protein known as GP160. So when the gene is transcribed and translated, this polyprotein GP160 is synthesized, and then this GP160 is cleaved by the viral protease to form 2 proteins, GP120 and GP41. GAG gene encodes the core proteins. The name is derived from group specific antigen. G from group, A from anti, and G from gen. So this encodes the core proteins. This protein gene is also translated into a precursor polyprotein. So the initial product is a precursor, and then this precursor polyprotein is cleaved into P24, P17, P7, and P6. P17 forms the inner lining of the lipid bilayer. It is present just inside the lipid bilayer. The other proteins P24, P6, P7 are present in the capsid. The name POL is derived from polymerase, and this gene encodes the 3 viral enzymes. The initial product of transcription translation is a precursor polyprotein, but this polyprotein is cleaved into the 3 enzymes: reverse transcriptase, integrase, and protease. Reverse transcriptase also possesses ribonuclease H activity. Each of the 6 accessory genes encodes 1 protein, and every protein has got a specific function. The gene TAT encodes a protein known as transactivator of transcription, and this protein increases the transcription of the viral genes. So the corresponding messenger RNAs are synthesized in the nucleus of the infected cell. The gene REV encodes a protein known as regulator of virus protein expression. This protein promotes the transport of viral messenger RNAs from the nucleus of the infected cell to the cytoplasm. The gene NEF encodes a protein known as negative regulatory factor. And this protein decreases the synthesis of MSC1 protein in the infected cell. Normally, MSC1 protein picks up and binds various peptides which are present in the cell, and then this MSC1 gets inserted in the cell membrane and the peptides are displayed on the surface of the cell. If the cell is infected by a virus, the viral peptides are also picked up and bound by the MSC1 protein, and these peptides are displayed on the surface of the infected cell. And these peptides can attract cytotoxic T cells having complementary T cell receptors. So the cytotoxic T cells will attack and will destroy the infected cell, the infected helper T cell. So negative regulatory factor prevents this destruction of infected cells by decreasing the synthesis of MSC1 protein. The gene VPU encodes a protein known as viral protein U, and this protein promotes the proteolysis breakdown of CD4, newly synthesized CD4 molecules in the infected cell. Normally, these CD4 molecules get inserted in the cell membrane and they act as a co-receptor. By promoting the proteolysis of CD4, newly synthesized CD4, viral protein U prevents the insertion of CD4 in the cell membrane, so the functioning of the helper T cell will be impaired. The gene VIF encodes a protein known as virus infectivity factor, which maintains the infectivity of the virus. It prevents a decrease in infectivity of the virus. This protein is actually an inhibitor of the enzyme ApoBEC3G. This enzyme, which is synthesized by the helper T cell, is a cytidine deaminase. This is capable of editing the genome of the virus, and because of this editing, the infectivity of the virus may decrease. So virus infectivity factor prevents a decrease in infectivity of the virus by inhibiting the enzyme ApoBEC3G. And the gene VPR encodes a protein known as viral protein R, and this protein acts as a shuttle for the export of viral genome from the nucleus of the infected cell into the cytoplasm. In this way, the proteins encoded by the accessory genes protect the HIV from destruction. The infected cell is protected from destruction, so HIV is also protected from destruction. And they also help in replication of virus, replication of HIV in the infected cell. When a person is infected by HIV, the virus is present in some blood cells, especially helper T cells and macrophages, and it is also present in genital secretions. So an infected person can transmit the virus to an uninfected person through his blood cells or through genital secretions. The transmission can occur through sexual contact. The genital secretions are transferred from one person to another. The virus is also transmitted. And this sexual contact may be vaginal or anal. Transmission can occur through transfusion of infected blood. If blood from an infected person is transfused into a healthy person, the virus may be transmitted to the healthy person. The transmission can occur because of sharing of contaminated needles, which is common in drug addicts. So if the same needle is used to prick different persons, the virus may be transferred from one person to another. And the fourth mechanism is that an infected mother can transmit the virus to fetus during pregnancy, and this is known as vertical transmission. What happens when HIV enters the body of an uninfected person? The molecules which are present on the surface of HIV are those of the protein GP120. This is the only protein which is displayed on the surface of the virus. And this protein GP120 happens to have a structure which is complementary to that of CD4. And because of this complementarity, GP120 binds to CD4 with high avidity. CD4 molecules are present mostly on the surface of helper T cells, but some CD4 molecules are present on the surface of macrophages also. So GP120 of the virus binds to these CD4 molecules. This is HIV. The genome of the HIV reverse transcript is surrounded by a lipid bilayer, and on the surface of HIV we see a large number of GP120 molecules. And this is a helper T cell, the membrane of the cell. The T cell receptor is inserted in the cell membrane. It is a transmembrane protein. The co-receptor CD4 is also inserted in the cell membrane. This is also a transmembrane protein. And because of structural complementarity between GP120 and CD4, the GP120 of the virus binds to CD4 of the helper T cell with high avidity. And when this binding occurs between GP120 on one hand and CD4 on the other hand, the lipid bilayer surrounding the HIV fuses with the lipid bilayer of the helper T cell. The cell membrane of the helper T cell or any other cell is a lipid bilayer. So the lipid bilayer of HIV fuses with the lipid bilayer of the helper T cell. The virus sheds its envelope. The envelope proteins remain outside, and the core of the virus enters the helper T cell. And when the viral genome plus the viral enzymes enter the helper T cell, the reverse transcriptase of the virus uses the RNA genome of the virus as a template, and it synthesizes a complementary strand of DNA. So a hybrid molecule is formed in which there is one strand of viral RNA and the other strand is complementary DNA. Now, reverse transcriptase also possesses ribonuclease H activity. So this ribonuclease H hydrolyzes the genomic RNA of the virus. So now only the single-stranded DNA is left. Now this single-stranded DNA now acts as a template, and a second complementary strand of DNA is synthesized. So now we have two strands of DNA which form a new double helix. And this new double-stranded DNA is a DNA copy of the HIV genome, because all the genes which are present in this newly synthesized DNA are the genes of the virus. Now this DNA copy of the HIV genome is incorporated in the DNA of the infected cell by the integrase, which is also a viral enzyme. So this viral enzyme integrase has also entered the infected cell, and this enzyme incorporates the DNA copy of the viral genome into the DNA of the infected cell or the host cell. And now this DNA copy of the viral genome becomes a permanent part of the DNA of the infected cell or the host cell. The DNA copy of the viral genome which has been incorporated in the DNA of the infected cell is known as proviral DNA because it is the precursor of new virus particles. By transcription and translation of this proviral DNA, new virus particles can be formed in the infected cell. This proviral DNA is transcribed by the transcription machinery of the infected cell. This transcription will result in the formation of mRNA, which is identical with the genomic RNA of the virus. And then this mRNA is translated by the translation machinery of the infected cell to form the viral proteins. These proteins are initially synthesized in the form of precursor polyproteins, and then these polyproteins are cleaved by the HIV protease to form the 15 proteins of HIV, which include the enzymes, the core proteins, and the envelope proteins. The mRNA which has been formed from transcription of the viral genome is identical with the genomic RNA of HIV. This mRNA is surrounded by the viral enzymes and the core proteins, that is P6, P7, and P24, and thus the core of a new virus is formed. And this core is surrounded by P17. P17 is surrounded by GP41 and GP120, and thus a new virus is formed. This virus buds out of the cell, and while it is coming out, it picks up a part of the cell membrane of the infected cell, which will form a lipid bilayer around the virus. GP41 will be inserted in the lipid bilayer, and GP120 will be present on the surface of the lipid bilayer. So in this way, a new virus is formed and is released from the infected helper T cell. This is HIV, the genome of the HIV, the reverse transcriptase, lipid bilayer, and GP120 molecules on the surface of the virus. These GP120 molecules bind to CD4 molecules on the surface of a helper T cell. This is a helper T cell, and now the lipid bilayer of the virus fuses with the lipid bilayer of the helper T cell. The genomic RNA enters the helper T cell. The enzymes also enter the helper T cell. Now, reverse transcriptase uses the genomic RNA as a template, and it synthesizes a DNA copy of the viral genome. This DNA copy is inserted or integrated into the DNA of the infected cell. So now this viral genome becomes a permanent part of the DNA of the infected cell. Now this part of the DNA, the proviral DNA, is transcribed. A messenger RNA is synthesized. The messenger RNA is translated. The various proteins, including the enzymes, are synthesized. And now these enzymes and proteins surround the RNA to form a new virus. This virus buds out of the helper T cell, taking it with it a part of the cell membrane. So a new virus particle is formed in the helper T cell, and it is released from the helper T cell. And this new virus will then infect some other uninfected helper T cell. The cycle will be repeated. So more and more virus particles are formed, and more helper T cells are infected. Now, when the virus multiplies inside the infected T cell, now we have this HIV here. This is a T cell. The virus has infected the T cell, and now this is a new virus formed in the infected T cell. multiplication of the virus. Multiple virus particles are formed in the infected helper T cell, and when the number of the virus particles becomes very large, the cell ruptures. This is the ruptured helper T cell, and these are the virus particles which have been released from the ruptured cell. So a large number of virus particles have been released from the ruptured helper T cell, and these virus particles can now infect other healthy helper T cells. Moreover, the viral proteins which are synthesized in the infected T cell are broken down by the proteolytic enzymes of the helper T cell. They are cleaved into peptides. And these viral peptides are picked up by MSC1 proteins of the infected helper T cells. And these viral peptides are displayed on the surface of the infected cell. And these will attract the killer T cells or the cytotoxic T cells having complementary T cell receptors. The cytotoxic T cells will destroy the helper T cell displaying the viral peptides. So there is continuous rupture of helper T cells because of multiplication of the virus inside the cells. And there is destruction of helper T cells by cytotoxic T cells. So all this results in depletion of helper T cells. And as the infection progresses, there is massive depletion of helper T cells. As we have seen earlier, the helper T cells are described as the commanding officer of the immune system. And when the commanding officer is debilitated or killed, the entire immune system is crippled. So the infected person or the affected person becomes immunodeficient, extremely immunodeficient. He is unable to fight even common ordinary infections, and ultimately he will succumb to some infection. Thank you.